portal to ascension. But we all have, the key is what is it that you came here to do that it really would knock your socks off? You would do it whether you're paid or not. You're really doing it because it makes your heart sing. So when we find what makes our heart sing, and then we find a way to express it in the world, we release and free our energy. We free everyone around us to be themselves also and to heal. We activate them because we got activated too. I think Ascension is catching. I'm telling you, this is a great planet, a great life if you say yes. And if you start to choose to listen to that intuitive voice that's telling you you could be more. You can be yourself.
You got to accentuate the positive. Wow, I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
If you feel like that's what you want to do.
Hello and welcome to another show, Accentuating the Positive with Karen Swain. Always a blessing to be with you all again. So look who's in the house. Some more angels. I've had angels everywhere for the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever it is. Joan of Angels, welcome to the show, darling one.
I'm just so excited to go one-on-one with you. I love your energy, Karen. I love your presence and actually like your screen background too. I'll take that too.
You like that one? I chose that just for you today, Joan.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yes.
I thought it represented, sort of other dimensions, angelic beings. It's got lightning in you with your feisty, lightning, fiery energy. I'm like, yeah, that's Joan. I know Joan and I have seen each other on a few things with Sheila Seppi and couple of things around the place. And I said to you before, you remind me so much of a friend of mine. You have a similar energy to her. So I feel like I've known you forever. Probably have really. I just met you in this lifetime, but known you forever.
I think so too. I think we've known each other forever, Karen. Like there's that soul connection. Like when you see someone that maybe came from your same home planet,
Right.
like the same kind of energetics and the same kind of mission.
Yeah.
And so I feel that way. I feel that way about you. We're all supporting the growth and ascension, not only the ascension, but connecting with our star family.
Well, absolutely. I was just away in the desert for about a week, and I met some amazing women from all over Australia. We came together to make a hand drum and do some activations and meditate and have a lovely time. And yeah, one or two of them was the same. Like one was, I kept saying, "You're so familiar to me. You're so familiar to me." And she said, "You are to me too, but I watch you on the show all the time." So I figured that was why. But there was this instant familiarity. It's amazing when that happens. It's like you've known someone forever. Yeah. Anyway,
no, it feels wonderful. So with that being said, I'm so happy to be here, Karen.
Happy to
Very
have you, darling one.
to share this energy with you.
We've got lots to yak about. And please remember, if you're liking the shows, to hit that subscribe button. I know I say that all the time. You hear it from all the podcasts. It's very boring. But it does help us when you leave a comment, when you subscribe, when you share the shows. It helps spread the message. I don't monetize these shows, so I'm not saying that to make money off you, because I put all this out completely free and I turn off the ads on YouTube. I've got a few on the side now because actually I found out when you turn off the ads, they stop sharing your shows. So the more
really?
The more crappy ads you have that interrupt, the conversations, like if you put half a dozen ads, which is so annoying to the listener, but YouTube will share your shows much more when you put your ads on. So it's up to the audience to share the shows, because I would prefer to have no ads and have YouTube share them less than to have more. Let me tell people a little bit about you, darling one, and and then we'll get into it. So Joan of Angels. In 2013, Joan was guided to paint 33 angels in 30 days, thus launching her work as an artist and a channel of divine angelic frequencies and beings to assist humanity with the ascension. Joan is also known as Dr. Joan Hagatha.
Garter.
Haggata.
Hand garter. It's a garter with art. No, you hang art. There's all these different ways you can say.
Hang arta, right. Is that a German name? Where's that from?
This was my ex-husband's name, and it was a
Right.
German name, and it's
Uh-huh.
the name I used in my chiropractic office.
Right.
So in the real world, I'm known as Dr. Joan Hangarter.
Oh, right. So you're an
Ours-
intuitive guide, oracle, transformational teacher, host of Miracle Mondays. Still doing that, Miracle Mondays?
I just restarted it again because I missed it so much.
Nice. And you do that on your YouTube channel?
I do it on my YouTube channel, and you could guess what day I do it on. Because for you, it's Tuesday.
Oh, it's my Tuesday.
It's Miracle Tuesday, but it's my Miracle Monday.
Your Miracle Monday. And step into the miraculous, best-selling author, visionary artist, and Doctor of Chiropractic, which we've just found out. She also channels messages and wisdom and art. And Joan is instrumental lately, well, over the last few years, in showcasing other New World teachers on her podcast show, which you'll find at YouTube/Joan of Angels, right? That's your podcast show?
That's my show, YouTube, Joan of Angels. Everything is Joan of Angels, Karen. It makes it easy in case I forget or you forget.
Yeah, exactly. Easy peasy. I've got a million different names anyway. That was probably not a great thing. And in online conferences, and there's many coming up, we'll talk about one of them that I'm involved in, and live conferences with Neil Gore of Portal to Ascension.
We're in Mount Shasta, and then we'll be heading down to Mexico. He's going to be in Sedona. And so we're meeting up at different parts of the world to kind of bring the light energy to it. And also we're expanding Portal to Ascension. So we're creating different, not only online events, but in-person events around the world. So we're going to create an event. We have Glastonbury coming up. We have Egypt coming up. We have our online other conferences coming up. But for me, it's a real interesting thing for me to start gathering speakers and working behind the scenes, because I do like working behind the scenes. I like knowing everyone in a sense. And I do like that and it sort of helps me with my own work too. So it's been a new project of mine.
Oh, I know how you feel. I like knowing everyone too. I share that with you. It's like, who are you? And what are you doing? Who are you? And who are you? I love it. I love it. People are fascinating, aren't they?
And the work of Portal to Ascension is my own work. It's this ascension. It's really investigating those subjects that really rock your soul. And it's important work. And I feel like he and I came together to do this particular part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I add that to my other work as an intuitive guide, a soul awakener, and just as a very exciting perspective. Because we're in exciting times, Karen. We are in the times where we will ascend this time. We have that potential to really make this transformation. It's come around other times, but these years, after 2020, now we're into the potential where we can actually change and shift into what we see.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited about that. The potential for what's going on here on the planet is amazing.
It's been a long time coming. It's been a long time coming, not just in our lifetime. It's been a long time coming. Yeah, sometimes I get a bit frustrated at how slow things are moving. And then I get excited when I see how fast things are moving. So there's a real dichotomy there, right? You think that things are moving slowly, and then you sort of look out and you think, actually, no, things are really speeding up. Yeah.
Because when you detach and you take your emotions out of it, I always take my clients up to the mountains so we can sit and have coffee or tea, and look from a better, greater perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And if we could look at the planet and see the timelines laid out and see the changes, we're still dealing with when we were burned at the stake, and when they burned at the stake is enough, drowned us, where they continually shut up and shut off our voice. And as women and as healers around the planet, we are all the healers. We're learning to take like that cork out of our throat that the male patriarchy put in here, so that healers around the world and people like us into ascension would not be heard. So my work is about pulling out that cork so we can be heard. And my guides have said, look, you are not going to be burned at the stake this life. You're not going to be burned as a heretic because you're a healer. So what I've noticed is that the energy is really shifting as more of us are coming to realize that it's safe to come out.
You know what I just got as we were talking about that? Many of us were persecuted for speaking our truth, and many of us were the persecutors.
Yes. Oh, there's that side too, Karen. Yes, that's why we come back over and over again.
Yeah, we came back to like beyond, to live a different story and clean up the mess. That just dropped in just then. Okay, well, let's get back to you. When did you transition from chiropractic to like the galactic channeling angelic thing? Was it happening when you were a chiropractor?
So when I started as a chiropractor, I went to this visioning workshop. What am I supposed to do with my life, right? And I was placed in a vision where there's a gorgeous goddess behind me, and I'm dressed in white. I'm gorgeous too. And we're in the Colosseum, and millions of people are walking in front of us in wheelchairs, crutches, or crawling, okay? And as they would go, she would, this goddess wave and wand, and people got up and were healed. So from that moment on, I felt that I was called to heal and inspire, uplift millions of people on the planet. And so I launched my chiropractic career with wanting to really become a speaker, wanting to reach more people. And I would adjust patients one-on-one, and yet I would feel that I should have 1 in 50, 1 in 100. Like, how am I going to reach more people? How am I going to wake people up? So that vision is still the one that I work with now. Okay. But I will fast forward to 2013. I had written some books on miracles, and I had gone through ups and downs in life. I had lost everything for the second time. Wasn't going as great as we would have hoped. And I was praying, angels, help me. How can I live this vision that I have? And they said, paint 33 angels in 30 days. It was Halloween 2013. And I went, I don't do faces. And then they said it again, paint 33 angels in 30 days. And I went, that's so much work. It's such a mess. All I could imagine was 30 canvases, the oil paints, the smells. Oh my God. So I said it again. And then I knew that if they said it one more time, I'd have to say yes. Because I really knew at that time that if my guides tell me to do something and I keep saying no, it won't come back again. And so I realized I had to say yes. If I really wanted my life to transform and actually live the vision that I had seen when I was 30, I'd have to say yes, get out of my comfort zone. And so I began painting that night. And the key was, well, what do I do with all this art, And I'm constantly going, well, what do I do with all this? What do I do? And so I hung them all up in the loft of this, it was a penthouse, so it became the Angel Loft. And a book fell off the bookshelf, Karen. It said, your call for angelic assistance has been heard. And in a sense, that's all I needed. So 3 things emerged out of that. Your call has been heard, to be one of the chosen ones. So meaning if I want to become a leader and step up, I'm actually going to have to choose to do this and say yes again. And then when I said, well, what do I do with all the art? They said, paint us and we will come. So it was like, well, who will come? So I had to learn to live in trust. So I began painting and channeling angels. I started doing workshops on how to feel the angels and how to feel your wings. And I was just so enamored with these angels. And then I was guided by Archangel Gabriel, told me I needed to move to the desert so I could hear. So I packed up and I moved to the desert, where I was living for 7 years until I moved last month. But day 2 was quite a day. Here I am in the desert, a little town called Desert Hot Springs, which I heard was now New Desert Heart Springs because I had moved there, right? And I wake up that morning, I go out for breakfast. There's a newspaper, USA Today, and it says Desert Hot Springs is the top 10 worst cities in the country. So I'm sitting there at breakfast looking at this. And then my friend comes in and she brings new people for me to meet. And this woman looks at me like this. She goes, what did you say your name was? And the entire restaurant stood still. Time stopped. And she said, oh, I know who you are. Now it's like bellowing in my ear. You're Joan. And then time stops. I was like, you're Joan of, and then I thought she was going to say Joan of Arc. She said Joan of Angels. And I heard the Hallelujah chorus. I just went, oh my God, time stopped, the energy, because it wasn't me naming me, my ego going, well, I'm a Joan of Arc fan. I've loved Joan of Arc since the day I was born. Honestly, I read everything I could get my hands on. She's the only bio I read as a girl. Like if I could be Joan of Arc, that was my, my go-to. So that's how I began painting, and that's how I became named Joan of Angels. And when I lived in the desert, most of the time I was alone. I lived alone. It was long distances away, and I dived into painting, and I painted hundreds of pieces of art and connecting, and most of it channeled. I could close my eyes and paint. The messages would come through, and canvases of portals, angelic frequencies, dimensional beings, and temples, pathways to heaven. So whatever, I'd be told, well, how do we get to heaven? And then a painting would show up, that would paint itself for me. So that's how I began as Joan of Angels.
What a beautiful story. Joan of Angels. Yeah, love it. Yeah, the last couple I had on the show, Jane, she said that she had seen herself as, a reincarnation of Joan of Arc. And then we spoke about how a lot of people have seen that, and how,
yes,
one soul can split, like 1,000 people could have been one person in history, because the soul is multidimensional, and, there's different aspects of us. So I would say that definitely an aspect of you was Joan of Arc. If you're obsessed with her, definitely. We've got the Joan of Arc energy happening.
I mean, if you think about it, that's a hard life to take on, because she had an untimely death, let's face it.
Right.
And when I thought about that's when I was reassured that I was not going to have an untimely death. But I do believe in aspects of that. There are many people who even have her frequency, her energy, and look how many, genetic generation ancestry, from that time to this time. But I do understand this. Joan of Arc was not a poor peasant girl in France. She was a direct descendant of Mary Magdalene and Jesus. And she came through that lineage of theirs, which really does explain the high frequency energy that she carried, that she was even able to get to the court, to connect to the king, to do that kind of work. She really came from nobility, and they couldn't resist her in that sense. So she wasn't that poor peasant girl. And she came in with a destiny too, just like each of us does.
Yeah, and it sounds like, she basically relived the archetypal story of the martyr, really, like standing up for what she believes in and being persecuted for it, like Jesus did, like bringing a new teaching to the world, and the old paradigm trying to squash that new teaching, which is like Groundhog Day, like this is exactly what we're going through.
Right. Well,
now.
That's true. You're right. I saw it as a personal perspective, though. So for me, it was like, wow, to be someone who could feel so strongly what she was here to do, that she was here to save France, and she was here to awaken the king to what he was to do. And I was enamored by that ability to know who you are, and to take a stand, and to know so strongly that you convinced other people, and they want to do it with you. But anyway, to be called Joan of Angels, to me, but in 2020, my guides, I was going around telling everyone, well, I'm the only Joan of Angels on the planet. Now that's a little egoic, and my guides were very clear with me. What they said was, hey, Joan, are you listening? And it was what? And they were saying, look, Joan, you're here for a reason. If you don't want to step into the high frequency energy of what you're here to do, we're fine with that. We're cool, but don't forget that, many are called. So there'll be someone else who would want to pick up that energy and do what they're being called to do. So we always have a choice. And if we don't want to do it, there's someone behind it who's going to say yes. Not that motivated me, but it did, because I was falling into that funk. It was 2020. I didn't know how I'm supposed to respond now to this long epidemic they were trying to, push on us. And I was a little wonky, and I needed a little angel, wake up call. And I really dived into my work then, and I really started connecting with Joan of Arc, hearing her messages about freedom and courage to do the right thing, courage to speak our truth, courage to see the light. And I still tap into that energy today, to have my own courage.
That is definitely what's being called for right now on planet Earth. Definitely. With a mainstream narrative that is being pushed and pushed and pushed, and the collective hypnosis growing ever stronger. People who live outside the box really need courage to speak their truth and stand up for what they believe in. It's just a huge frequency that's going on the planet. Yeah, courage, 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 courage. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it is going to take courage, because honestly, I think that was a prelude to what else is to come. And we have to hold steady in our own sovereignty, in our own knowingness that we were meant to be free human beings. We were meant to express our potential. We came down here with a mission of awakening, not just ourselves, but others. Right. I know your listeners resonate to that. We all came down with this mission. And now, since 2020, this is the time.
Yeah.
I have people calling me, what am I supposed to do? Well, this is the time to just start to breathe, put your roots in the ground, stand firm. I call breaths out, wings out, right? and believe in your potential and what you're here to do.
Right.
Because people need to feel our confidence now.
Yeah.
They need to be reassured that we have a handle on what's going on, and that, we're doing what we do logically: chop wood, carry water. Mm-hmm. You chop wood too, you carry water. Let's all do it together, and that will raise the vibratory frequency.
Absolutely. As I said, I've just come back from driving through the outback, the desert of Australia. And when you get out of the city, I'm sure it's the same in the States. You have a very different perspective on life. It's a much simpler. There's not as much pushback to the mainstream narrative. Everyone falls into line and falls into line. Anyway, so finding food, like as somebody that's a vegan or a megan, I call myself. Finding food that's not meat, it's almost impossible. Everything on the menu is a meat dish. Everything, except for an apple, and yet little cafes and stuff won't sell you fruit. Like, they just don't. Even in the petrol stations, you can get chips and chocolate and fizzy drinks, and I just I saw the collective hypnosis of all of this. And I thought, wow, even standing up for that belief is pushing against that narrative and making people think. I was in a little cafe and I asked for stuff that wasn't meat, and the young girl behind the counter looked at me like, why doesn't she want to eat meat? And it was just making her think outside in a different way. Like, that's strange. Like, it just, yeah. And we went to a place called Broken Hill, which is where Priscilla in the desert, Priscilla, the movie Priscilla. Did you see that movie? It was a famous movie about drag queens out in the desert of Australia. It was huge, with Hugo Weaving and a few different people. And it transformed that country town, because I suspect that Australia is like the States. When you get out of the cities, it's like anything like gay or trans or anything is just considered crazy. But, this movie made, God, in the 90s, 30 years ago, transformed this country town, and people now can see a different perspective. So in small ways, things are changing. Yeah. In big ways, things are changing.
Things are changing slowly but steadily, yes, and new views. And, it's ironic. We're here in Mount Shasta, which is one of the power points of the planet. And when Neil and I were looking for a place to live, he said, Joan, I want to be in Mount Shasta so I could have vegan food and vegetarian. Uh-huh. So we made the assumption that there was vegan. I mean, when we were in Tulum a year ago working, every restaurant we went to was vegan. The food was so good, I could hardly believe it. So I'm thinking to myself, yeah, Mount Shasta, vegan, vegetarian, right? Most spiritual town in the world. Not one vegan restaurant, no vegetarian options. I can hardly believe it. The produce in the town is better in Southern Cal. That's all I could tell you. So of course now we don't go anywhere except cook in the kitchen here. But it was a surprise, Karen.
Wow.
Just, it was just a surprise. and I don't know why I said that. Yes, I look for vegan and vegetarian food too. But, on the note of that, one of the things I've been thinking about is how toxic the planet is. We walked into this Airbnb and I was here by myself the first few days. I couldn't breathe because whatever they put to smell the house, they think it smells good. To me, it gagged me. I could barely breathe. And they had it in some electric plug so it could go all day long, all night. And for 3 days, I'm choking, I'm gagging until I could figure out how to stop these smells. And I had to go out and buy all my own cleaners because bleach could drive you crazy, besides harm your body and upset your hormonal system. So what I've been thinking about is how bizarre is it we live on this planet, and almost everything on the planet, if you're not aware, is kind of designed to harm you. You actually have to be born awake now and really awake to get that it's dangerous to live unawake. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. It just dovetails with the conversations I was having with the girls out back. A lot of them were lived on the land all over Australia. They came from all over Australia. And one of them said she lives next to a huge, wheat producer who produces wheat for the bread industry here. And he will not eat his own bread. And I said, why? His own wheat? And he said, because he knows the chemicals he puts on it to produce such mass quantities, the fungicides, the herbicides, the pesticides. He said it's absolutely toxic and he won't eat it. And he produces it and does it to make money, but he won't eat it. And it's like, yeah, we're systematically being poisoned by everything we do in this world. Yeah, it's crazy.
Everything, the water,
right,
the air. It's as if it's not meant for us. It's as if it's meant for some extraterrestrial being that can live in it, or someone that can live in it, and not us. It's the strangest thing, Karen. So I spend my time and I work with people on what do you need? What is it going to take for you to thrive and have a healthy body, mind, and spirit, for you to remember why you're here and recall your gifts.
Right. Yeah.
Because no one's going to remind you. No one's going to hand it to you on a silver platter. You have to find out yourself. They're not telling us.
Yeah, the way I see it with this whole toxicity that we live in, it's when you're running an industry, like one of the biggest industries is the pharmaceutical industry, when you're running an industry that makes money out of your sickness, it serves you for people to be sick. We don't want to kill you. We just want you to be like low-grade sick all the time, allergies and, chronic illnesses. But apart from the chemical toxicity that we live in this world, it's the mental toxicity that we live in. It's the marinating in fear and worry and anger and resentment. And yeah, that's really the main drama, I think. Yeah. What did the angels tell you about that when they were speaking to you?
So, I've learned how to help people heal and turn on their power from the inside out. That's all we have. Because as you and I are discussing, the outside world isn't really harmonious with our inside world. And until we learn how to navigate our inside world, the outside world won't be so harmonious. So my guides are always showing me ways to help myself and help others align so we can hear the voice of our guides and get clarity on even our own mission, or where to go, or how to be. We're in dangerous times now. And I teach a class on intuition. Why? Because learning to hear and recognize and acknowledge that voice could save your life. It could help you thrive when others aren't. It helps you hear between the BS. It helps you go, oh, wait, my gut doesn't agree with that. I don't align with that. I was looking at a picture of some people who host a major event. And as I was looking at their picture, I was thinking, well, do I really want to be on that show? And that's a big one for me, because that's a big show. I'm looking at that picture, and in my belly, I'm getting a kind of weird feeling. Because I want to work with the highest vibrational frequencies of light. I want to be on your show because I adore you. Couldn't wait to get to know you better, but I feel the light vibrations coming. And I thought to myself, because I wanted to say yes, honestly, I wanted to say yes to this, but I didn't, because I realized I don't know if I could actually beam like a light beam if I don't feel a resonance for the highest frequencies. And I pride myself on, I don't go live, I don't do Miracle Monday unless I'm in that energy that can help manifest miracles.
Absolutely. I'm hearing you. There's many different steps on the path to ascension, isn't there? And yeah, you've got to sort of stay in your lane, because I get all over the place too. Oh, she's talking about that. He's talking about that. And then I've got to kind of stay in my lane and yeah, share what I'm sharing. And it's a different frequency to what other people are sharing, because people are at different levels of awakening that are still quite ego based, and they resonate with these teachers. But yeah, I guess we've got to speak to the people that resonate with our message. Yeah.
Well, you know, so here's what I think.
Yeah.
I believe that many of us, like you and I and our audience, are volunteers. We knew planet Earth was a hot mess. We jumped up, leaped for joy, and said, bring it on. That's our kind of work. But, you know, in order to come down here, we had to actually have the skills that they needed down here. You know, it's a job. It's sort of like a job, you know, to come down here. Not only did we need those skills, but we had to kind of pass certain tests, because they had one shot at freeing planet Earth now. This is the shot. So they sent down the best of the best of the best. So if you're listening to this, you are the best of the best of the best. It's a matter of remembering. And it's a matter of, okay, you have a clipboard. This clipboard says, oh yeah, Karen, her amazing shows, her movies, she's going to be waking up humanity, like whatever those assignments are. It's a matter of us waking up to them and remembering them, and then saying yes. You know, the last component is saying yes.
Say yes. Yeah.
Saying yes.
Say
to
yes.
what you're here to do.
Yeah. You know, I was just thinking about that this morning as I was looking at I want to talk about your art, but I want to get into the, what is it called? The Ultimate Star Being Conference that's coming up.
Oh, Ultimate, yes.
And as I was looking at the faces, because I've been watching these conferences come and go for years, because I've been doing this work for like 30 years. And I haven't been too involved in many of them. And then when I see this conversation, star being, I'm thinking maybe I wasn't involved in happiness conferences and stuff like that, even though this is what I speak about, because it was a different level of vibrational frequency. Whereas this star being conference is like at another level. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I'm going to tell you about it. It is another level, because Neil and I are really busy diving into it. And we just set up the schedule and the panels. There's a day of free panels first, and then 55 speakers. But they're not on all aspects of what it takes to be a star being, what it feels like, what are the different kinds, what are the mechanics of it, why is it even important, you know, to embrace this side of us. And one of the things about PTA's events is that you may have the speakers doing their things, but you have the chat. And I've never seen anything like it, Karen. Everyone goes wild in the chat. It's its own class that's happening there. And that is part of the tribe of what I'm a part of. And for years, I used to know Neil and his wife really well. I would think, one day I'm going to travel with them. I don't know why. I just couldn't. And I would say to that, I don't know, I'm going to be traveling with you one day. And now I understand why, because I'm on that same path of awakening. And I'm probably part of the team that is doing that portal to ascension. But we all have, the key is what is it that you came here to do that it really would knock your socks off? You would do it whether you're paid or not. You're really doing it because it makes your heart sing. So when we find what makes our heart sing, and then we find a way to express it in the world, we release and free our energy. We free everyone around us to be themselves also and to heal. We activate them because we got activated too. I think ascension is catching. Okay, Karen, I think if I sit in this little mountaintop looking down at all the lights, I always have my clients turn up their light, a little antenna. If I see all these antennas around the planet, they are lit. Yeah. They are aglow, you know, and we're just magnetizing those frequencies for miracles.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the key, isn't it? What makes your heart sing? As Bashar would say, follow your highest excitement, follow your bliss. What makes your heart sing? What would you do if you knew you weren't going to get paid a cent for it, but you did it just because you loved it? I mean, that's really the key, right? That's really the key. Really?
That's an artist's life. Just so you know, that happens to be an artist's life because they
Right.
do what they love, and we never know if we're going to get paid for it, if people will love it. But when I started that painting, Karen, I just couldn't stop, and
Right.
I could not stop. There was never a thought, am I going to make a living on these, or what am I going to,
Right.
it's like, and that is when you're coming purely from source.
Yes. Yeah. I think that whole, doing things for money, it gets so, because we have to make money. Like we have to do something to make money. That's part of the game here on earth. But, so many people go into things to try and make money out of it. And that's fine. That's fine. But it kind of muddies the water, doesn't it? If you just stay in the channel of flow, the abundance comes. You looked after. I said to the guides years ago, listen, I can't work out the money matrix in this third dimensional world. It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't get it. Every time I go into some money making scheme, I just lose money. It's like I do the opposite of what I intend. And when I stop trying to make money, money comes. And so I'm like, what's going on here? And I said, look, I'm going to just like step out and you look after me, please. And that's exactly what happened.
I love that. That is true. That is really true. And they say, do what you love, the money will follow.
Right.
True. The more, but the key is to really do what that bliss that makes your heart sing.
Right.
That confirms like your soul is awake. And then you feel that sense of purpose. And I have a client I adore. What's her purpose? Her purpose right now is to be the light, hold steady in her community up in upstate New York, and talk to people about what's going on and just be strong, be herself. It's not like we're being required in many instances. Well, you were required to be a talk show host, and maybe I was, but not everyone's required to do this. You're being asked to hold your own, keep your own space balanced.
Yeah. I never set out to be a talk show host. It's so funny. I just said, you'll find out when I chat about it on your show. But let's look at some art, shall we? I want to look at some of your art. Do you want to
show you some of the art?
Yeah.
So I want to tell you that a few months ago, I was asked to call in aliens. Okay.
Yeah.
I was at a kind of low frequency event. All right. So it was more
higher
like
dimensional beings, higher civilizational beings, I call them, because, we see the word alien as strange and foreign. But when you think of beings that are souls like us that exist in a civilization that is so much more advanced than us,
right?
Then they become the teachers, like the university, teachers, not the strange aliens. Yeah, that's how I see them anyway. Yeah,
an extraordinary being. So they said, can you call in aliens? And so I started on their star beings, and they have these energies, and it's actually a privilege. Anyway, so my guide said, yes, you can call in the star beings, Joan.
Right.
So I go out into the center of the field. We're in a place called Joshua Tree, which is known for its UFOs. And I start doing this process. I don't know how to call it. I couldn't call in angels, but okay, UFOs, let's do it. And I have my eyes closed, and I hear a voice that says, look up.
Uh-huh.
And I think to myself, it's too soon. Holy moly. But I thought, okay, I better listen. And I open my eyes, and there's a ship. And the ship kind of comes out from the mountain, and it sort of stays above us and twinkles for a little bit to make sure we could see it. And then it takes off, right? And it was very profound for these people because, some of them were in the corner drinking. It wasn't like a spiritual crowd. All right, Karen. Some people had wanted to come into the circle, but they were told not to come. And a couple of people were told to leave the house. Okay. That was the weirdest thing. But then in the morning, when we really downloaded and talked about it, was a very powerful event. A few days later, I go to a disclosure festival. Alan Steinfeld is doing a guided meditation. I'm sitting there listening. And the next thing I know, this star being extraterrestrial comes into my consciousness. It looked like one of the ones that I've been afraid of. There was one particular star being, I would always say, do not come. No, I'm hiding. Do not come. Like you can hide from them, really. Okay. So I had to sort of jump, and then it's like the being smiled at me. And I started, so by the end of that day, okay, I started channeling this art, which is where we're going to start from. And the art started with the star being that I had seen. and then into sort of the interdimensional portals where they are and possibilities. So that's what I'm going to show you. Okay. So I can only tell you that when this one came through, and I made a declare of it, so this is a print of it, but you can see the energies that's in the eyes. All right, the whole world is in her eyes. I feel like it's her. And she came down to really show me what's possible. And it was quite profound to see her energy. And so, and then I printed her, there she's printed. Now, oh, okay, so they want me to show you the one that came before that, okay? So there was another version that came in. Let's see. Oh, yeah, well, we'll start over here. I don't know which place I'm in. So originally also, that was the other energetics that began to come through. And you can see the interdimensionality. It's almost like a plant medicine journey in that. I'm seeing your face. You look stunned.
No, it's beautiful. I'm loving it. I love it. It's beautiful.
And then they started to show me other energies of what was around in the field.
Wow. Beautiful.
Okay. So I'm sharing these because I'm creating a presentation for the Ultimate Star Being ones on interdimensional living. Okay. Like what kinds of energies are there? What it feels like to be in these swirling sources of I don't know, just really kind of high energy. So these are some of the beings that have been coming to me since really activated. I felt that after calling in the UFO and the star being came, I was completely activated into a new interdimensional portal. And that's where all the art is sort of coming from. This seems more mechanical to me. It was sort of a little bit more AI-ish. But then we started with this one. And then, like the dreams, you should know I'm a Pisces too. Okay. So Pisces are dreamers anyway. But I feel like these are some of the cities that are on those other planes.
Yeah, that looks, like a city. So this goes out to audio podcasts also, to lots of people listen on audio. So you'll have to check out these on YouTube if you want to see the art for people listening. But
you're going to have to check it out on YouTube. This one I particularly
YouTube,
love.
Rumble, and Odyssey. I'm on these days.
Oh, good. I was going to ask where you're at. Okay. Yes. So we have some of these, and then continuing. I was really asking to be shown some of the palaces, some of the crystalline structures. Where could we even live in an environment like this? You know?
So that looks ancient as well as
yes,
ancient
world.
Yeah, ancient world, but in the future. I kind of it has this ancient frequency, but a futuristic frequency as well. So interesting, sort of like a new Lemurian frequency.
Yeah. And I'm hearing the Lemurian energies, but it is interesting because the timelines, they expected us to come down here. They didn't tell us who you were, so we have to remember. And then they changed the timelines on us.
Right.
And they make everything a mystery. And they go after people who tell the truth. So what a conundrum. We don't know. And that's, the great mix. This is a high frequency being.
It's a being. Wow.
You can see the being. You can see his eyes actually in the center. And so a very, very high frequency being, but still under the energies of the heart.
So for those people listening, it doesn't really look humanoid. It really looks like a building. But beings, beings live in everything. Like trees are beings, mountains are beings, planets are beings. Like everything has consciousness, right?
So interesting. You don't see the eyes and the face. So inside him, I can see next to the heart. It's like if you can see the heart almost as his shoulders. There's a head there.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
There's a little being. There's a couple of little beings. Even in the belly, there's beings.
Yeah.
And so this one was one of my favorites. And
I love the colors in that. Yeah.
I can't even interpret some of these yet at this point. These are definitely where they're telling me this is a convergence of timelines and the convergence where energies come together. So this is like, and then I'm obsessed with hearts. So however a heart can come in, it will come in. This one's one of my favorites. It's sort of, it feels like a what do you call leopard hearts.
Mm-hmm.
So these are just, see, and definitely on a planetary system far away is when I feel these frequencies.
Mm.
So this art will be available for purchase at some point. I'm going to kind of get it up in my
Go back to that one. That one
like him.
Yeah, okay, I like him. No, the other one, he's gorgeous too, but the one before. It's that has, yeah, I love that.
She does. Well, I don't know if it's she actually, but it's a spiritual angelic warrior.
Yeah, I love that.
And a guardian angel, one who's really come to protect humanity.
Ooh, that one pops for me.
I'm happy. Well, any of these, my friend, can be, I don't know if we can ship to Australia. And this one is just to me so reminiscent of the early times when Source started to create worlds.
Mm.
It's kind of how I feel about this one. I want to fast forward though to the series that came through when I'm going to show it to you starting over here. I was here up on the mountain, and you know, this is where Telos is and the ascended masters are in these mountains. Okay. And I want to see if I got that one through here. Maybe I didn't even get it in this package. Okay. Well, I didn't. Okay. So as I was on the mountain, we were doing a series of processes, and everyone was talking about the beings that they were seeing. I didn't see anyone, but I did see this tree that was actually just like a dead tree, but it looked like a being was sitting on top of it. I don't have it sitting right here, but it was this little thin tree. So the little thin tree, everyone's talking, I saw Christ, I saw Buddha, I saw these beings. I didn't see anyone but this tree. So in the car on the way back, I'm looking at the tree, and before you know it, I start diving in, and many different beings came through from the rocks and the tree that day. This is one of them. There was a gathering of high spiritual beings that you couldn't see with the naked eye. I asked to have it revealed. This was the mountain, the rocks were in front of it. This was one of the beings that was actually on that platform where others were seeing Saint Germain.
Wow.
And so the camera, these are rocks, and I see beings in the rocks, and these were the activated rocks on the mountain there. And you can actually feel their frequencies. And this was the actual portal into that magic, and there's that tree trunk, looks like it's that skinny little tree thing that's still in the image, because I was enhancing and playing and asking for all to be revealed. So, and this was who came out, this goddess of the mountain. I believe that she's like Lady Shastina.
Oh, beautiful.
Goddess of the mountain.
Mm.
And these two other beings that came on that day. And so this is not from the same series, but it's quite interesting to be in my head.
It's quite interesting to be in my head. I know how you feel. It's very interesting to be in my head too.
So now they've told me that I can't rest, that my new mission is so I do very deep readings with people about who you are, why you're here, what your purpose is, the mission. So you can embrace. I finally figured it out. I get people excited about who they are. Yeah. I get them more excited about who they are than they were when they even because I know.
This is why we feel so connected. You and I have the same mandate, really. We have the same mission, you know? Yeah. Somebody said to me, you got to create an elevator pitch. And I'm like, oh, what? If somebody asks you what you do in 7 seconds, can you answer? And I'm like, crikey, no. But yeah, it came like activate, accelerate, acclimate, accentuate the New World teachers. And you do too. You do exactly that.
That's right. And I've been told I'm the visionary's vision. I'm the visionary's visionary.
Right. Visionary's visionary. A visionary.
I help you capture the vision
of what
you came here for. And remember, Pisces, all about vision.
Right.
But what I'm doing now, and I just started with a couple of new clients, where I do very deep readings. Again, I call them soul awakening sessions. We're getting a new name for it. It's really like making your soul scrumptious again sessions. And like,
Making you.
see how scrumptious, you know, your
What was it?
mission
What was it? You called it soul visionary sessions. I
soul
like that.
awakening.
Soul awakening, soul visionary.
Soul
sessions.
awakening, but that doesn't even, so once I do the session, and then my guides like just remember who you are. They're like connecting to when you came down here and why you came down here and this amazingness of you.
Mm-hmm.
Then the art can come forward in that. So I would show you what I did. I haven't shown the woman yet, but really powerful art that shows you who you are at the highest of levels.
Mm. Yeah. You know, I often think when I'm watching people speaking about their NDEs, you know, they're coming from a very linear, third dimensional perspective of religion. And many of them meet their own true self and they see it as God. Not that it's not God, but they see it as this deity that's outside themselves that, you know, like I saw this brilliant light, this amazing light, these lights. You know, I was speaking to God, but they're coming from that idea that God is this being outside themselves. And they're really only seeing their own being, their own inner being, really, the light of their own being. Yeah.
Waking up to who we are is the greatest joy, but sometimes it's elusive. Because sometimes it's been easier to forget, because the more you wake up, then the less you could forget, you know. So I thought I'd show you a higher perspective of this particular person.
Okay.
If you'd like to see it. It's the first time I'm sharing it. And I'm excited about this essence to show. A beautiful woman who has come here to lead the way, who has come here to guide others into stepping into their power, stepping into their greatest gifts.
So is this a client or is this you?
This is not me. I should be that gorgeous. No, this was a client. And the mission was to show that highest spiritual aspect so that when you have that in your home, it reflects back to you who you are, and light codes from the higher realms and from why you came here are all encoded in that artwork that is framing you. So that is part of my new work. If you're interested, guys, just reach out. I'm excited about that too, Karen. It's another way of people remembering.
Mm-hmm. So you're doing digital art of people's higher aspects.
Just a great way to, yes, so that you love yourself as much as your guides and your angels love you.
Yeah, I know.
So you can see how powerful you are every moment. So you don't forget, you know, this forgetting thing that happens.
Yeah, one of the biggest thought forms that's been perpetuated on this planet is the thought form of, you know, we call it in Australia, tall poppy syndrome. Vanity. Like if you talk about yourself in a higher perspective, you're being vain or you're being arrogant, or, you know, the tall poppy syndrome is when the poppy grows above the, you know, chop off its head and make everybody like that's the tall poppy syndrome. But there is this fine line between talking about who you are and what you're here to do and sort of big noting yourself, like trying to be special. Then anyway, yeah. So I think that you can still love yourself and know yourself as an extension of that divine source and feel completely equal with everybody else, because everybody else is too, right? Like I remember I went to India, I don't know, 20 years ago, and Sai Baba was saying, I am God and so are you. The only difference between you and I is that I've remembered and you've forgotten.
Wow.
Right.
And that is huge. That is such, and that's so, but you're so right, Karen. You know, like ego can really take us right off the path.
Right.
I had a few lifetimes I've woken up, you know, in visions, and I saw when my own ego got me right off that path, and I fell and was in the untouchable in India. And when I was a chiropractor, and I ended up losing everything as a chiropractor after I was injured, but I was, at one point, I had stepped into arrogance.
Mm-hmm.
I thought for a while that because I was good at what I did and so many people came to see me, that there was something special about me. And that attitude, now I was a great chiropractor. I was good, nothing to, I was good, yes, but not this egoic that somehow felt I was better because I now had that skill. And there is an art form. I lost everything. And I'm convinced it's because I needed to learn compassion this life. I needed to understand and what really happens. And I lost everything to teach me that lesson of, how to walk in the world, share your gifts, but with humbleness and humility at the same time. It's quite an art form.
It is indeed. It is an art form, but it's also easy, because I think that's been my lesson too. I feel like I'm talking to myself and many things that you're saying, but it becomes easy. I think that's just that recognition that everyone is you, One of the books that I loved reading when I was younger was Richard Bach's book, One. Have you ever read that book? He speaks about,
Richard Bach.
Richard Bach.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those came out quite a while ago. Yes, his books were really very powerful.
Yeah.
Understanding we could fly. We were the bird. We were, we were one. We're
one. Yeah, exactly. One with the brilliance and one with the depravity too, yeah. Anyway, it's
that's called soul choice, right? We have free will.
Mm-hmm.
We have free will. You and I chose to spend this hour loving on each other and sharing this wisdom and having the stars around us and the high dimensional frequencies. And that's the life we are choosing to create.
Exactly. For people listening, what life are you choosing to create? Yeah, I feel like this conversation's a big wake-up call for a lot of people listening, Joan. You and I together, big wake-up call, big message to people that are listening. So how long? We've been yakking for almost an hour. Shall we talk about, what do we want to talk about? Shall we talk more about the Ultimate Star Being Conference? Do you want to say any more about that?
Well, I think everyone should come if you really want to know your potential as a star being and what is possible when you think outside the box. What are you good, but I'm going to talk to you on Monday about what you're going to talk about. But it's a great conference. I think we really ought to talk about what inspires people to be the best that they could be, to live this path. Because I don't know about you, but I eat vegan now. I don't eat meat, and at some point along my path, I gave up the things that lowered my frequency, or I had to let go of people that were not at the right frequency, people, places, and things. Like, this process of awakening requires such discernment, Karen, that I just want people to know it can, when you raise your own frequency and vibration, you step into the bliss molecule. You just change your energy, and it's worth every second of learning these tools. That's what I think.
I know, being away with these amazing women, I think I was the only vegetarian one amongst them, which I found interesting. Not that that's a judgment call, but because many of them live in the country, and meat eating is just such a mainstream, way of thinking that it takes quite a lot to stop. Because I love meat, to tell you the truth, and dairy and cheese and all that sort of stuff. I love it. I don't eat it because I don't like it. I eat it because I don't think it's sustainable to feed 7 billion people in these systems that we've got going on the planet. And I want to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. So it's really more of a collective overview for me. It's not the reason that many people are vegans, but it's like, we need to change the way we do things on planet Earth, because it's not sustainable what we're doing. Many things I do are not sustainable, like driving petrol cars and all that sort of thing, but I'm not in control of that. I had a really interesting talk with the star beings as I was driving, frustrated at being in a petrol car and taking so long to where I had to go, because I've got memories of travel being really different, like from other planets. Yeah, like teleportation and even like,
I can't wait.
Why aren't I in, like, I knew as a kid you know, that I would be in a flying car when I grew up, and I am not in a flying car 60 years later. Like, why aren't I in a flying car? Like, I reckon we've been really stunted in that way.
I have news for you, Karen. If you go back, if you look at a lot of people are talking about a civilization called Tartaria, and the photos from Tartaria show flying cars in the 1800s.
Ooh.
And electric lights in the 1800s. These have all been hidden from us.
Wow.
And from us even seeing them, but they actually were part of your history. And you could even be remembering ways that you lived here on the planet.
Wow.
Okay? Because we do have breakthrough memories that come through. Yes. When I say that they've changed our history, they really have. Mm-hmm. And the magnificence of humanity has been sort of dumbed down as opposed to really shining a light on us. And I think that this new ascension timeline wave is important, so we can bring in the positive and the sense of optimum wellness and optimum health and optimum well-being and optimum potential, and, you know, everything on a higher plane.
So Tartaria was
Tartaria.
How to say it?
Tartaria, Tartaria. I have a few videos on my YouTube channel about Tartaria, and I'm actually going to take, when I kind of free up some of my energy, take more deep dives. Yes.
I think I was watching you and Rob Vox talking about it. Was that right? You and Rob?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Tartaria.
Tartaria.
And that was on Earth, was it? Was on Earth in the 1800s?
It was on Earth. It was on Earth. Well, we don't know. It could have been hundreds and hundreds of years. This civilization was an extremely high frequency civilization.
Right.
That their cities were actually in the form of a star.
Right.
And the buildings had those spires that actually pulled out the free energy from the sun.
Right.
And then distributed the energy through not just the buildings, but through the canals around the city, and powered everything. And the cities were designed. I remember that show with Rob. I was telling him, Rob, these cities were designed to bring happiness and joy. Now, can you imagine living in your country or mine in a city that was designed to bring happiness and joy?
Mm.
I'm praying that we have that in our lifetime, Karen.
Yeah.
That we can all live in cities that bring that, and eat food that raises our frequency and brings us closer to the light.
Yeah.
Happiness and joy.
Happiness and joy. Well, happiness and joy is an inside job, no matter what frequency or dimensional stance you're living in. It is it's inside the third dimensional matrix. It is more of a challenge to find the happiness within, but I guess that's the challenge we've given ourselves, right? We've given ourselves that challenge to be in the third dimensional matrix and find that happiness and joy. But yeah, with that happiness and joy, the creativity just streams in. The new systems, the new creative ways of living on Earth can just find you, and you can implement that as you're doing, Joan.
Right. I'm telling you, this is a great planet, a great life if you say yes. And if you start to choose to listen to that, your intuitive voice that's telling you could be more. You can be yourself.
Yeah.
More truly.
Absolutely. You can be more than your limiting beliefs about yourself. Yeah, you can be more than that. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, darling, what a joy to be with you today. What a pleasure. What an absolute pleasure.
Okay, so I'm looking forward to when I interview you, Karen. And I just love this energy. I love your presence. And just being one-on-one with you has just been very nurturing and uplifting.
I know. I feel like you're holding on to so much. We could talk about so many secrets. Tartaria and angels and star beings is just scratching the surface with you, Joan. There's so much more to talk about with you, but we'll have to do that another time. Darling one, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been so beautiful.
My honor, hon. I'm so excited. Thank you, guys. I love you all. And look forward to the next time. Yes, we're going to have to dive in again. This is great.
How wonderful to chat with Joan. We have seen each other on quite a few different conferences and shows and with Sheila Seppi and stuff. And yeah, it was lovely to do a one-on-one, as she said. And I'm going to be on her show in a couple of weeks. We're going to do a live So that will be on the 10th of, where are we now? October? Yeah, we're on October. 10th of October, my 11th, your 10th. We're going to do it live on Facebook and YouTube. So if you go to her channel, you can see us yakking. You can see the gals yakking again, talking about me, but we'll talk about her too. You know, we're collective beings. We're the same, her and I, in many ways. You know, we love to talk about other people as much as we love talking about ourselves. I don't really love talking about myself, I have to say, but the guides do use my stories to illustrate points of view I'm trying to put across. They'll say, you know, talk about when this happened to you, and talk about when that happened to you, and talk about, but they give me memories and stories of other people that I've spoken to too, to illustrate things that I'm saying. You know, story is such a powerful way of imparting information, because we remember story. That's how television works. That's why there's so many soap operas. You know, we remember people's stories. That's how the collective hypnosis was put in place, by telling stories through our television systems and movie systems. And people remember the stories, but it wouldn't be good if we remembered the uplifting, expansive, you know, higher dimensional stories instead of the tragedies, like the news. The stories told on the news are all tragedy, and they don't follow up with the tragedies. Like what happened after the tragedy. Recently on our television networks here in Australia, they talked about the Bali bombings, which happened 20 years ago, 2002 in Bali. Some terrorists went into a nightclub in Bali, a busy nightclub, and blew it up inside and outside the nightclub. Lots of people died. So they've made a whole Netflix series about it, with talking about the tragedy, but they haven't talked about the aftermath, like what happened to the follow-up of people. How did that change people's lives for the better? You know, like what happened to those people? One of them is in my book. He wasn't on the Netflix series or the series. It's not Netflix. I think it's Stan, the Australian equivalent. His years of grief after that, because his daughter was killed, he just decided one day that he just didn't want to feel that bad. And so he deliberately made an effort to think more positively, and it changed his life, and it changed everybody's life around him. So that was the outcome of the tragedy. And yet in our mainstream, you know, television and movie making and diet that we get, we don't hear the outcome of the contrast that we live in life. So what I try and do on the shows is to show that outcome, like tragedy happens, and how did it awaken you? How did it serve you? Because that's very much the soul perspective, the higher perspective, that we come into this contrasting, polarized, dramatic world, marinating in fear, and we use the darkness to evolve the soul. You know, God or Source uses the light and the dark as an evolutionary process for the soul. And so it's all set up for us. It's happening for us, not to us. And much of what we're going through, although it looks like I get, you know, the personality me gets frustrated at the corruption that I see in the world. And then when I tune back into my higher self and the guides, they say, it's all happening for you. Look how the corruption's waking people up. Look at the mass awakening that's happened in the last couple of years. And I'm like, yeah, right. It's working for us, even though it doesn't look good to live through or to look at. It's working for us. It's working for us. Hence the book, Awakened by Death. You know, death is seen in this world as the biggest tragedy that we can have, whether we experience the death of a loved one or a friend, or even our own death. It's usually through some sort of illness or something. And yet it can be such an awakening process when you touch your soul, when you get reintroduced to the glory and the divinity and the light of your true inner being. Death can do that for you. It can be a beautiful gift, really, a beautiful gift. But many people in this world don't see that. Anyway, beautiful to talk with Joan of Angels. And yes, she's implementing a lot of conferences. She's got a lot on the boil at the moment. I'm involved in the Ultimate Star Being Conference, which is happening in November. It's been moved. The dates have been moved. I'm looking at the 3rd to the 7th. I wonder if it's later. Let me just have a look in my diary. Ultimate Star Being Conference. Yeah. So it's starting. It's a 5-day online conference starting on the 3rd, it looks like, to the 7th of November. I'm going to be speaking midday my Sunday, which will be Saturday night in the States. on that conference. But wow, you should see the lineup. Sherry Wilde's there. I've had her on the show. Foster Gamble, love Foster, that made the Thrive documentaries. Adam Apollo, love Adam. Haven't had him on the show yet. We have talked about it. We've sent messages back and forth. We just haven't organised it. I think because we're both busy. He's really busy. Dan Winter, which comes from that very scientific perspective. Mary Rodwell, I love Mary. And lots of people. Go check it out. Akura, who we've had on the show, incredible star being. Yeah, there's about 50 odd people. Many I know, some of them I don't. Obviously, Alan, Rebecca Hardcastle Wright, Joan of Angels, Alan Steinfeld. Oh, I see. He's obviously one of the hosts. And Neil Gore. Neil's always got wonderful things to say. Magenta Pixie. Everyone always talks to me about Magenta Pixie. She's a UK spiritual teacher. And someone just sent me a video of hers the other day, which I have to look at, talking to an asteroid. She was talking to an asteroid. I'm like, cool. I'll have to get her on the show. I've never had her on the show. Elizabeth April, Caroline Corey, love Caroline. Ray Hernandez, who was just on the show a couple of weeks ago, love Ray. Geraldina Roscoe. Anyway, Bridget Renee Holiday. As I say, Phil Goober. I've had lots of them on my show. It looks like a fabulous conference, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it, really thrilled, as I'm one of the ultimate star beings. I'm actually very earthbound as well. I've had so many lives on planet Earth. I think I've explored every aspect of what it is to be human, in and out. Worked on my karma in this lifetime. And how many years ago? I think it was about 10 or 12 years ago. My life shifted exponentially. I didn't do anything specifically, but I felt this shift. And I said to my guides, what's happened? And they said, well, you've done the karma. You've worked on it all. You're done, finished. Like karma as in those desires unfulfilled from past lifetimes. We come in to fulfill them in other lifetimes. So I had fulfilled those desires. I had worked through what I wanted to work through. And now it's time to accelerate the teaching process and accelerate the showcasing new world teachers and accelerate the Ascension process, which, happened about 10 or 12 years ago. Yeah, it was really beautiful. But I could feel a real shift. It's kind of like I could relax. I could just relax. Yeah, it was lovely. All right, guys, coming up in the Inner Sanctum, I'm on this weekend, but I don't know if this will come out before this weekend. But anyway, I just did a live the other day talking all about that and who's coming up. Check it out on karenswain.com/innersanctum. All right, love you big time. Remember, check out the book Awakened by Death if you haven't already, and I'll catch you next time. Big love. Bye for now.